Hey everyone, my name is Damien and I'm a pianist and composer. Now I presume that you've already seen the movie Tenet, but if you haven't, I highly recommend you go watch the movie first and then watch this. The music of Tenet is composed by Ludwig Göransson, who was born in 1984 in Sweden. He has written music for many other films, including Central Intelligence, Black Panther, and Venom. He has also written music for TV shows and music videos. I'm going to be listening to the first piece of the soundtrack, which is called Rainy Night in Tallinn, and it plays at the start of the film. So let's get started. Okay, this is sounding pretty nice. It's kind of like what an orchestra does when they're tuning up at the start of a performance. So it makes sense for the start of a movie, I guess. But it's getting a little bit more dissonant. Okay, building up. Okay, there's a real change of texture there. Wow, that sounds pretty cool. Okay, oh, gee. Okay, so something in the background. It's playing like a pretty fast bit of a melody or bass line. It sounds really cool, I really like it. Yeah, this... Okay, and it's coming to more of the surface. Alright, so at the start of the piece you have like the orchestra kind of tuning up. If you've ever been to like a performance of an orchestra, that's like the sounds they make when they're tuning up to make sure everything's in tune. It gets more dissonant, and that's kind of why it sounds a bit off-putting, because there's a lot of notes clashing that don't really work together. The really great contrast where the orchestra just stops and then that electric guitar, synthesizer, instrument just, yeah, it's just a single note. It kind of like dips away. Silence is a super effective way to build tension. It's like when you're watching a horror movie and everything's really quiet. It feels awkward that there's no sound or anything there, and you're kind of expecting something to happen but you don't know when. And then there's that like that melody, kind of that bass line in the background, and it sounds really kind of muffled. Now as the piece was going on, it kind of was, you could hear it a bit more clearly. That technique is just like filtering out the high frequencies, so you've got all the low frequencies and then you're kind of slowly bringing in those higher frequencies, and that's why it's sounding like more clearer. This whole soundtrack uses a lot more like electronic sounds rather than acoustic ones, but there's still kind of some acoustic sounds mixed in there like we saw at the start of the piece. Trying to work out the rhythm, the beat. Yeah, it's not really like it's more of a complex time signature. Yeah, I really love this layering. We're just adding more effects and sounds, and they're all so different as well. We've got like a riser coming up. Oh, that sounds really nice. So we're bringing back those elements in that we had before, so that's a really good way to tie everything together. Oh, that sounds really good. Yeah, now it's getting really energetic. Okay. So the time signature in this part, it's what you'd call it like a complex time signature, where it doesn't really divide very evenly. I'll probably try and work it out later, but on the spot it's a bit difficult to work out. It's not just something like 4/4 or 3/4. It's difficult to latch onto a specific beat, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and so that makes it kind of a bit unsettling and not very familiar. I have so many different sounds and so many different textures. Just like the layering of everything is really effective, like just bringing in little elements here and there. When you break it down, each part is actually not that complicated, but when you put them all together, it sounds really effective and really rich as well. It's kind of like that snare drum thing that's kind of rising up, and that's used the same kind of technique with the filtering. So it starts with like the lower frequencies and brings in the higher ones. And now we're really getting into the kind of the thick of the piece. So now we're on more of a steady beat, so it's gaining a lot of momentum, and it's easier to hear that beat. Okay, this synth is getting a lot more rich and thicker. We're adding more layers again. Yeah, that's really nice. It sounds so good. Like it's done a really good job. So now there's like 2 rhythms going on at once, which is like a bit of a polyrhythm. And that's making it a bit harder to find the beat. So now we've gone back into more of a not simple time signature. It sounds like strings in the back, but there might be synthesized strings that are like building the tension. Yeah, so for this part, there's a lot of kind of similar things happening just to keep the movie going. In film music, you obviously have to kind of, whatever's happening on scene, you kind of have to go forever, however long that is. Like we're going into complex time signatures and back to like simple time signatures. That makes it even more difficult to kind of find a specific beat. It's really cool how there's a lot of layers and the texture's really thick, and then it thins out and moving into the next section. So that's a cool little kind of gateway transition. Okay, we're building up. Okay, there we go. Yeah, we kind of gone like the other way. So we had that high register stuff, and now we've got more low register, bassy stuff. Yeah, there's so many different sounds in this piece. It really just makes it really interesting. Everything that comes up. What I also really like is like everything is rhythmic. Like there's very few instruments. Like maybe the sustained strings that are more just melodic and don't have much of a rhythm. So yeah, so each kind of part has their own little rhythm, and that's really contributing to the whole texture. Yeah, I really like the changes between these different kind of textures and the instruments. It's really kind of just throws you around a lot. Okay. Like I said before, all the elements in this piece are really rhythmic. There's not many instruments that are kind of melodic and just without a rhythm, so that really contributes to the whole feel and the momentum of this piece. So rhythm creates a lot of momentum, especially when there's a lot of different instruments that each have their own rhythm and creates like polyrhythms. That's creating a lot of momentum, and that makes it also a bit more unsettling because it's more difficult to hear the strong beat. The changes in between like little ensembles, I guess you could call it. It's kind of like 2 different scenes or 2 different characters, and they're just changing in between them. But it's really effective how like quick it happens. It's not like a smooth transition. It's very just in your face, like it changes. So I really like that. Let's listen to the rest of the piece and see where it ends up. So So you think you're on one rhythm, and then something else kind of just throws you off. That's really cool. Yeah, so we're now, there's a lot less rhythm here. It's a bit more spacey and sounds like kind of a reversed organ or some sort of keyboard instrument there. Okay, we're building up. It's a lot quicker tempo. So many like changes in texture and dynamics. Okay, we have like a solo cello with a lot of reverb. Super different to the rest of the piece though. That's it's kind of like a bit of a reference to the start of this piece, isn't it? When the orchestra is tuning up. Oh wow, that was really nice. Yeah, that's not really where I expected the end of the piece to go. It's done a really good job there. It's kind of like a different section altogether, just very completely different from the rest of the piece because it's, yeah, without that rhythm. There's a little bit of like some rhythm, and then when we have just that solo cello by itself, there's some other like ambient sound in the background as well. I really like that, how that last bit is kind of like a bit of a tie back to the start. We have kind of like the orchestra and then all the electronic instruments, and then the orchestra or string instruments come back again. One of the key things to keep music interesting, especially like in a film or video game, is to really keep the music changing a lot, and that's what happened pretty much all throughout this piece. That lack of rhythm is super effective when there's kind of been rhythm all throughout the piece in like every instrument and everything. Solo cello is a very popular kind of melody instrument, especially just those really slow moving melodies. They really just have like a kind of haunting but also really lyrical sound to them. That's a really nice way to end the piece. And then it just cuts off as well, which is a bit of an interesting finish there too. So I hope you enjoyed this video today and learnt something about the music. So let me know what you thought about this piece, and let me know what your favourite track in the Tenet soundtrack is. I've also made some reaction videos to the Dune film score, so be sure to check them out after this. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya.